Hello there my friends, my name is Riskfish and today I'm bringing you a video on Warhammer 2 Total War. With at least one more load pack on the horizon, there is at least one free LC load that is due to come with it, and today I will be discussing the idea that this free LC load could be Rakarth or Shadowblade. The first thing to do is to establish why the next free LC load will be a Warhammer 2 load, and this can be seen by the pattern in previous content. CA has stated that they want to bring all factions up to the same level, with the current standard being 6 loads, with 2 from the core game, 2 from load packs and 2 from free LCs. This means that going on CA's official statements, the Skaven and the Dark Elves are both lacking a free LC load. The next important thing to establish is why the Dark Elves in particular could be the next free LC load, and there are a few reasons for this. If you actually look at the Vortex map, the map can be split into roughly 4 equal portions, with 10 loads in Lustria and 10 loads in the Southlands. However, Nagaroth is lagging behind at 8 loads, that is if you include Mazda Monday, and poor old Ulthuan is even further behind at a paltry 3 loads. This means that Ulthuan is in desperate need of more loads to make the area interesting for the existing factions, but also to put obstacles in the way of a High Elf Confederation steamroll. And as it just so happens, the Dark Elves have battled with the High Elves over Ulthuan since the division of their races, and still contest several parts of it, giving them a lawful and relevant reason to start in Ulthuan. Ulthuan is also the only remaining of the 4 landmasses that the Dark Elves do not have a start position in. So now let's talk about the potential lords, as there are 2 that are in a strong position to be a free LC lord. Candidate 1, Rakarth. The first is Rakarth, the Beast Lord of Karankar. This lord has actually had a reversal of fortune, because in the DLC that was revealed to be the Shadow and the Blade, this lord was highly speculated to be the lord for the Dark Elves. However, this was always unlikely because Malus Darkblade, the last 8th edition lord for the Dark Elves, had not yet been added to the game, and CA has overwhelmingly based the game on 8th edition. However, good news! Now that the Dark Elves have all their 8th edition lords, there is no longer any obstacle for Rakarth. There is also a unique dilemma in Warhammer 2 called the Beastmaster, which reads as follows. A Beastmaster has been caught digging up the remains of Brachus, the legendary steed of Beast Lord Rakarth himself, a distant relative of your lord. As the Beastmaster is an influential figure, the lord asks you to adjudicate over this matter. The 2 choices you get are to say that it's just a dead horse, or off with his head, but the choices aren't what matter so much as the reference itself. While this definitely could be foreshadowing for Rakarth, there is also an argument against Rakarth's inclusion here due to his mount being dead. But this is actually something that happened in the lore. Rakarth originally had a horse called Brachus who died when he was 8 years old in the Battle of Furnival Plains in Safaray. He then later trained a black dragon and called it Brachus in memory of his first horse, so the reference doesn't offer any obstacle to Rakarth's inclusion, but more so increases his chances. The next point is that most legendary lords have a generic version of themselves. Tyrion has princes, Teclis has archmages, Nakai has ancient Kroxigors, and so on. In the Shadow and the Blade, High Beastmasters were added but currently have no legendary lord version of themselves. They could have actually been added in preparation for adding Rakarth as a free LC. In addition, the other units associated with Rakarth, such as Black Dragons and more specifically Hydras, are already in the game. There is also a unique mechanic that can be suggested for Rakarth, as he led an army of 9 Hydras against Ulthuan which were destroyed by High Elf sorcery. He then worked with Morathi to create a special breed of Hydras that were physically weaker than the normal ones, but in exchange were highly resistant to high magic, called Spellthirster Hydras. The original specimen, known as Daveth, was then retired and used in a breeding program to create more. This would actually be a cool mechanic for Rakarth and a parody of the mechanics of Imrik, allowing Rakarth to capture Hydras to create unique variants as a representation of the Beastmaster's breeding program. Also, if judging by CA's hint the Beastmen are also part of the DLC, then Rakarth could potentially have a thematic connection to the DLC, which, while definitely not a huge factor, is a factor in his favour. The next thing to talk about is his starting position. You see, he is the Beastmaster of Karankar, however Alifanar already starts there, bringing him up to start elsewhere, most likely in Ulthuan. Here he has a connection to 2 locations, the first being Safaray in Ulthuan's interior, where the Battle of Furnival Plains took place, and the location in which Rakarth lost his first mount, Brachus, the horse version. The second location he has a connection to is Nagaroth. Nagaroth being a generic Dark Elf location, However, there is a problem for Rakarth here, in that in the game and the lore, this area has much stronger ties to Shadowblade and the Shades, as we will soon find out. Candidate 2, Shadowblade. The second candidate is Shadowblade, and just like Rakarth, he has a great potential to be a free LC lord for the Dark Elves. The first is that he has a much stronger connection to Naggaroth than Rakarth does. While Naggaroth is a generic Dark Elf location within Ulthuan, in the chronology of Warhammer its most recent conflicts are between Dark Elf Shade clans and Naggaroth Shadow Warriors, as seen in this quote from the official Dark Elf army book. The war over possession of the ancient realm of Naggaroth, now a shattered series of isles, waves as strong now as it did 5,000 years ago. In an attempt to wrest control of these lands from the Shadow Warriors of Ulthuan, the Witch King has moved several Shade clans to the Shadowlands to fight against the interlopers defiling the ground of Naggaroth. Malekith has promised these Shade clans possession of any Naggaroth lands that they can wrest from the High Elves, and rewards them for the head of every Shadow Warrior sent to him in Nagrand. There is now a sporadic but vicious guerrilla fighting between the Shadow Warriors of Ulthuan and those emergent Shades, sometimes called the Sundered Clans or Reaver Shades. Malekith hopes that this fighting will sap the strength and morale of the Shadow Warriors, so that they will be swept away when the time for a full invasion comes again. The connection between Naggaroth and the Shade clans also extends to in-game, with the province having two unique structures, the Black Citadel of Anilak in Tor Anilak and the Shrine of the Widowmaker in the Shrine of Cain. Both of these buildings give significant buffs to the Dark Elf race, but one thing that stands out is that both have multiple Shade units as a garrison, and the Shrine also buffs Cainite assassins specifically. This not only shows that Shadowblade and the Shades have a connection in lore to Naggaroth, but this connection is also being honoured by CA in-game. There are some people who might try to discredit Shadowblade, saying that you can't lead armies, but to those people I take your statement and I raise you a Deathmaster Snickich who had the same rule. Shadowblade is also arguably the most pivotal character in the Vortex, and is represented very well in the cinematics, so experiencing the Vortex campaign from his point of view would actually be a cool spin on the Vortex campaign. Who actually is the free LC? This is actually one of those situations where there is no clear answer. Both add something new to the Dark Elves and both have significant evidence for their inclusion. I personally am definitely leaning more towards Rakarth at the moment due to the inclusion of the High Beast Lords, but I would be perfectly happy with Shadowblade. There is also the potential that Shadowblade could actually be added as a legendary hero, but we will have to wait and see. This sadly brings us to the end of the video. If you stayed to the end, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you next time.